Hey y'all, Bob Linde from the Tradition School of Herbal Studies in St. Petersburg, Florida. We hadn't stopped to talk about one of the plants that we have growing locally here. And it's one we don't hear about a whole lot, wild violet. And although we don't see a lot of this right here in the Tampa Bay area, as we start to move inland, we go a little bit further north, Orlando, Gainesville, we start to see this plant very commonly. And we can think of this beautiful thing as a lovely trailside nibble, very mild in its flavor. Mucilaginous, insert the word slimy, kind of think of a mild okra, not too intense. But when you put it in your mouth, you start to notice one of the things we talk about a lot. We talk about energetics of plants, of whether something's hot or cold or wet or dry. So needless to say, that mucilaginous makes us think of this plant as a very wet in its nature. So we're going to use this for dry skin, dry intestines. As you let it sit in your mouth, one of the things we notice with a lot of our mucilaginous plants, not all of them, but most, is that it almost feels cold in your mouth, almost like we've got a little piece of watermelon just sitting back in there. So we think of this not as cool, but as cold. And we don't see a lot of plants that we actually put into that cold category. So not only is it moistening and cool, we find that it's very powerful in reducing fevers and a lot of antimicrobial effects. So with this, believe it or not, if I'm talking to you, it's probably also a Chinese herb. So this one's also a Chinese herb. And we don't have any flowers up yet. They're going to be coming up soon. And it gets this beautiful little violet flower that'll come out of the center. But we use the roots in Chinese medicine, and it's a Chinese herb that if you're in the Chinese herbal realm or an acupuncturist, you can look this up in your medical books, Zihua Diding. Mostly it's just fun to say. We don't find it in a whole lot of formulas, but it is strong for any kind of intense infections. It's usually used in formula with similar things, Xuan Qin Liang, the Endographis, and any number of other herbs that are really strong antimicrobials. This, we're going to start to see constipation, dry throat, hard nodules, skin rashes that are red, dry, maybe painful. So here's the neat thing, we can use it internally or externally. Or we can just throw it in a salad if you want. So if we're going to make a topical application, we're going to look at, and I find the stems, and we can also use the roots. You don't really have to add anything to it. We can start to just mash it up, and as we create a poultice, and certainly you could do a spit poultice, but no spit needed. It's already kind of moist. You can start to see this is starting to get a little bit slimy. And I rub that onto my skin, you can start to see how wet that's actually starting to look. So feels, although I'm not on fire or anything, this would feel really nice. One of the things we don't talk about in herbal medicine or not is the use of things outside of plant matter. So we use a lot of stone medicine here in Tradition's Herb School. So we could take a powder of something like selenite, Chinese medicine, that Shigao. We really had a hot, ulcerated, painful sore. The combination of this with either the leaf or the root, along with selenite, would do an amazing job at trying to do things to bring down that fever. But let's take a look at the roots real fast. And I'm gonna promise I'll put this guy back after we pull him up. Oh, look, there's a little flower just about to come out. Isn't that neat? So here's the root part that we use in Chinese medicine. So this is the Zihua Diding. Oh, look at that. I'm going to spread these little guys everywhere. I love that we've got this in our raised bed in the back of the clinic. And there we start to see some of the root that's going to be used. It's almost like a nice tuber. So we would actually cut it off right here at the top of the root, and we can use this fresh or dried for a strong antimicrobial. Oh, all of these guys are about to go to bloom. We'll have to post some pictures later about that. So we're excited. We're getting ready to go on a canoe trip with our senior students this weekend on the Hillsborough River to identify a lot of these plants. One of the favorite things that we do in the Western Herbal program here is make sure that we really start to address those bioregional plants, those things that are unique to Florida that we find so many things don't grow in this area. So get to know the plants in your area. Not to say we limit ourselves to Florida plants, but we certainly start to incorporate more and more of the things that are already grown in your yard. So hope we see you at either one of our free lectures, out at one of the great conferences coming up like International Herb Symposium, the American Herbalist Guild, and even for the acupuncturists, I'll be at the Florida State Oriental Medicine Conference in Orlando coming up in August. And I'm going to have a first time ever teaching this at one of the herb conference or the acupuncture conferences. I'm going to teach medicine making. It's going to be really exciting for all the acupuncturists to see what do we do with all these good plants. So, see you next time. Bob Linde from the Tradition School of Herbal Studies in St. Petersburg, Florida. Bye.